we have the return of Yeezy.com and Yeezy Season 10. Unfortunately, he can't talk a lot about what's going on, obviously because he's in an ongoing lawsuit. From what I have read, I believe it puts it at $1.1 billion per year. So after 7 years, it's 7.7. All right, what's going on, everybody? And welcome back to the JPD podcast. I'm your host, Jean-Luc Daigle, and if you're new here, in this podcast, I go over everything from sneakers, fashion, pop culture, business, or honestly whatever else I'm tapped into for the week. Today, we're going to be going over Yeezy Season 10 news. We got the new CPFM Dunk collab that's going to be coming out later this year, and we got UFC's new partnership with Paramount, which is going to be bringing the end to the pay-per-view era of combat sports. But before we get into everything, as you guys already know, I'd like to thank you all for coming for the culture, and I hope you stay for the conversation. This past week has been very busy. If you guys saw last week's episode, you probably saw that I was going to be going to SneakerCon New York. I did end up going on Saturday. I wanted to go for both days, but after being there all day Saturday, I was like, it's going to be the same people tomorrow, and just didn't really make sense to drive all the way back out there. For the 2.5 hours that it was, and be back in downtown Brooklyn. They ended up doing the event at a warehouse. It was like a massive warehouse venue in the port area of and like the naval yard of Brooklyn. So it was interesting, to say the least. I don't know why they don't go back to the Javits Center, which is where they used to do their event. About a decade ago at this point. The Javits Center is obviously a much nicer area, and when they do a lot of their events in other states, they generally doing them at expo centers. So I'm not sure what's going on there, but regardless, overall, it was a great event. There was hundreds of vendors and thousands of people, special guests showing up left and right at the event. I mean, it is SneakerCon New York was originally founded and run in 2009. And so this was the hometown show. This and LA, I think, are generally their biggest ones that they do. So it only made sense that they had just the biggest names in the sneaker community popping out. I saw on day 2, actually, Nicky Diamond pulled up. Benjamin Kicks was there. And a few other big sneaker influencers and people within the community. But I did end up picking up a pair of shoes because it was SneakerCon New York and I had to get something from it. I ended up getting the Obsidian 1 lows. So so before I get into the shoes, I actually got these because my girlfriend, as an anniversary gift, as one of the anniversary gifts, I should say, she got me this Jordan UNC bootleg style vintage tee. It's actually, believe it or not, it is from Nike. It's got the Jumpman on the back. So Nike and Jordan Brand, as part of their Rare Air collection, they have been dropping some vintage inspired pieces, and one of them was this t-shirt along with another boxy oversized Jordan t-shirt, which is him on the Bulls. So my girlfriend got me this in a size medium. So for anybody that needs some sizing reference, I usually go with the size large, but and based on the Nike sizing on their site, it was suggesting to go with a large, but I found out that is actually for standard sizes, whereas the boxy fit you should size down. So I ended up getting this actually in a medium. So and these measurements for this tee were pretty consistent with that of a large in Shaka Wear's garment dye t-shirts, a large in Comfort Colors heavyweight t-shirts, as well as like an LA Apparel garment dye t-shirt in a size large. So so if you guys are interested in a t-shirt like this from Jordan Brand, which is, the oversized fit. Definitely be sure to size down to get more consistent with whatever you wear in like a standard size, because even in this size medium, it still fits a pretty good amount oversized with the drop shoulder and the edge of the sleeve coming down to about, I'd say, the elbow, and fairly boxy in fit. So definitely even a good shirt too if you need like a t-shirt for hooping. So it has the UNC blue on it, so it was only right that I got a shoe that had some sort of university blue on it, or something close to that I could pair it with. So I ended up getting the UNC, or rather the Obsidian one lows. Actually ended up picking up 2 pairs of these. The seller, I can't remember who it was. I got them for $110 each, which was lower than what retail is, because retail was 140, and then even the sale prices on a lot of the Jordan 1 lows, which I think is around maybe like 120 or so. So 110 was obviously under market, and so I had to get myself a pair. These, if you guys are unfamiliar with the Jordan 1 Obsidian, the original high version that came out in 2019, it was like the TikTok shoe. That and the Mocha 1 highs were like the 2 big shoes that a lot of TikTokers and influencers were trying to rock at the time. And so the Obsidian 1 highs and the Mocha 1 highs were really up there in resale prices. They've pretty much tanked compared to what they were. I was actually looking at the UNC 1 highs, or rather the Obsidian 1 highs, yesterday or 2 days ago as I was preparing for this episode, and I think you can get them for around like mid twos or so much lower than what they were, because I think they were back then during like COVID and that TikToker era of sneakers, they're probably in like the fours or so. I could be wrong on that, but I'll definitely look at the price history on that and throw it up for you guys on the screen. But yeah, the 1 low version of the shoe is pretty much identical to the Obsidian 1 highs. Quality is pretty consistent. Fit is obviously consistent. I ended up getting these in a 10.5. So that is my true size. As I have mentioned in previous episodes, as well as my main channel, that I usually go with a 10.5 for my true size in Jordans, and I go with an 11 in Nikes. And these fit perfect, and I will definitely be getting some wears out of these. I've been big on Jordan 1s lately. I got the black toe 1 lows. I got the Travis Scott brown velvets, which I actually have them right here in the corner of the screen. Haven't rocked those yet. Probably going to end up wearing those down to Fort Lauderdale in October when I'm down there. But I'm looking to also get the Mocha 1 lows and a few other Jordan 1 lows, because they've been just pumping out a lot of good colorways in those. And we got the Chicago's coming out later this year, so definitely going to be trying to get my hands on a pair of those as well. But other than that, I mean, I got the little eBay tag on them. If you guys have not been to a sneaker con before, always look for, even on the flyer or when you're at the event, for the eBay booth, because SneakerCon offers free authentication. It's very interesting. I didn't know this until going down to Fort Lauderdale for SneakerCon back in January, that not every event has an eBay booth for authentication there. And the reason for that is because SneakerCon in 2020, I'd say, I think it was 2020, they had the acquisition from eBay for the authentication services that SneakerCon had created since 2009. Because if you guys are unfamiliar with the history of SneakerCon, they actually, in conjunction with their event, did an authentication service. And so if you ever see pairs that have like it's like a gold, it looks like a gold hang tag, it'll say like SneakerCon guaranteed authentic or something like that. That's their old tag. So eBay had purchased all the back end operations for that, and for a while, a lot of SneakerCons going forward had the eBay booth, because obviously eBay was trying to get their authentication and sneaker program up and running as part of their platform to compete with the likes of StockX and GOAT and some other platforms as well. And then they started to kind of wane down a little bit on that. So they weren't going to every event like they used to. And so there are some SneakerCon events that you'll see where it's just SneakerCon and there's no eBay branding or anything there. And so that just has like their normal authenticators there that they hire to do free authentication for their attendees. But the nice thing about when they have eBay there is they'll actually tag your shoe, so you can actually scan the QR code on the back, or I think you can tap your phone to it as well, and it'll actually pull up the authentication for the shoe and showing that it's guaranteed to be authentic. Both the pairs I got are excuse me, both the pairs I got are tagged with that. So I end up snipping this off anyway when I go to wear the shoe, so it's not like it really matters. But if you plan to resell them, or at least kind of hold on to these for a while, and somebody ever questions if they're authentic or not, at least you have this tag, which guarantees that they're authentic. Other than that, in terms of pickups, I don't have anything else yet. I do have the Undefeated 4s coming in next week. So either on next week's episode or the episode after that, I will be showing you guys the Undefeated 4s. Very excited. I was actually anticipating that they were going to be coming in later, because if you guys saw last week's episode, I had mentioned that they were, from the email notification that said that I hit, they said there's a potential that they could be shipped out as late as August 29th. So fortunately enough, they are going to be coming in much earlier than that. And I think I got the notification either yesterday or 2 days ago or something like that. So excited for those to come in and get a look-see in hand of those. Because I think I only saw maybe a few of those at SneakerCon New York, which was really surprising. Like, nobody had them at all for a shoe that supposedly had 6-figure stock numbers. There was, I think, only maybe 1 or 2 people in the entire building that I saw with the Undefeated 4s. I don't think I saw a single person even have them on feet, which is even crazier. So speaking of which, with the stock numbers, August 28th on sneakers, they will be officially dropping there. So the retail price there is $230, which, looking back at my order, I didn't realize that what I paid for was a $230 retail price. I think it was like $20 of shipping, and then on top of that was like the $13 of tax, and then another $5 or $6 for the fee, which brought it up to about that $265, $270 mark that I had mentioned for you guys last week. If you're buying off Nike, they're probably going to be around like after shipping and taxes, it'll be like $240, $245, something like that. So a lot nicer in terms of price. Save yourself about $30 or so from buying on sneakers if you can hit, because supposedly there's 8,000 to 16,000 pairs that will be available. That was posted by Over and Under on X. So not sure how accurate that stock number is for the site, but who knows? We'll see, based on what people are saying on social media after the drop. But you can definitely anticipate that the resale prices will drop. I did mention last week in the episode that to hold off if you guys were looking to get yourself a pair, because prices were, I think, in like the mid to high 5s or something like that, even low 6s. And I think right now you can get like a 10.5 I was seeing for under 500 on StockX. So prices have already dropped, and I'm sure that when people get them in hand, as well as when the Nike drop officially happens in a couple weeks, that they will drop even more. I'm hoping to be even under 400, which would be nice, being able to get something in like the mid to high 3s for a resale price, just because it is obviously more affordable it's more affordable for people that want to get themselves a pair. But we'll see as the weeks go on. We got some ISRU camp updates. So I found this site recently, about probably a week ago or so, which actually tracks all of the entries, or rather the all of the contestants in for the Mars Yard 3.0s, because ISRU is Nike's camp to get the shoes. And I'll pull it up for you guys on screen. The site, so interesting, the site's actually not working properly right now, which is really weird because I was checking it this morning. But if I, by the time I have this edited and posted for you guys, if I can pull up more current numbers, I will definitely throw it up on the screen. But I was seeing over, let's see, I was seeing over 70,000 entries on this, and I currently have a total points value of 695, which puts me in the top 1.4%. So we're moving up in the world, guys. We are getting closer and closer to being at the top for these shoes, which I am very excited for, because we don't know stock numbers, like I've previously mentioned, and the lower your the lower percentage that you're in, or rather the higher percentage, I'm not sure which way to phrase that, but the better your percentage is, the closer to 0% that you are, the better, because that obviously means that you are within the few thousand that will probably end up getting a pair of these shoes. So I am just constantly doing these challenges every single day. I think we're up to 4 or 5 challenges now we're up to, because let's see, we had, if you guys have been following along on your own and doing the challenges, right, there's 10 free throws, output before input. They got out and back, wall drawing, and the new one is like read before bed or something like that. So up to 5 challenges, plus you got all the different quizzes and stuff that pop up here and there, and a few other things. And so I've just been plugging along. We got a few more weeks of this. Bump the mic, I apologize, guys. We got a few more weeks of these. Let's see, we got 1, 2, 3 more weeks of this, because the orders for these, so like, I guess the scores are finalized on September 5th at midnight, and then from that point the shoes will be able to be purchased for those that obviously are within rank based on points. So yeah, so got a few more weeks of this, and I will keep you guys posted. Hopefully, fingers crossed, that we hit, because that would be awesome to be able to show you guys on the channel. But other than that, the other thing I wanted to mention real quick is I ended up actually running into 2J's Kicks. So if you guys have seen, I think it was the first episode? No, I think it was maybe the second or third episode. I talked about the ongoing Nike lawsuits that have been happening, specifically with Nike and the shoe surgeon. And I also, and with that, I was talking about the shoe surgeon and the Urban Necessities situation that's been happening. So I ended up actually running into I ran into JC Lopez, aka 2J's Kicks, the founder of Urban Necessities, and we're talking a little bit about what's been going on. Unfortunately, he can't talk a lot about what's going on, obviously, because he's in an ongoing lawsuit with the shoe surgeon and with the whole thing with Urban Necessities. So everything is pretty much under wraps as of right now, until things progress further, and hopefully there's some sort of resolution. But he seems to be fairly confident in his stance, and so we'll see what ends up happening there. But for his sake, and I think for the sneaker community's sake, given that he's an OG within the community and within what I guess you consider the modern day sneaker reselling, he was definitely an OG, because I remember following him when I first got into shoes around the 2013, 2014 era of sneakers, right before that Hypebeast era, and then into the Hypebeast era, and he was like the sneaker reseller, and him and Benjamin Kicks were like the top guys. So if you were trying to be a reseller, a lot of guys were trying to be like 2J's Kicks and Benjamin Kicks. So I hope for his sake, and I think he's got the community backing him in this, and I hope that the resolution is able to be, in his favor, and be able to make things right, with the consigners, and be able to bring back urban necessities to, what it previously was within the community. Real quick, guys, I know I'm interrupting, but I wanted to ask that if you're watching or listening on YouTube and you're enjoying the episode, please do me a huge favor by liking the episode as well as subscribing to the channel. If you guys want to stay up to date on all my episodes, you already know that you got to hit that notification bell. If you guys are enjoying the episode and you're watching or listening on Spotify or Apple Podcast, you could do me a huge favor on those platforms by following the podcast as well as giving it a rating. So first up, in terms of news and main topics, we got the CPFM Dunk Pack that's going to be releasing later this year for fall 2025. If you guys are unfamiliar with CPFM, it stands for Cactus Plant Flea Market, and they're collaborating with Nike on what they're dubbing the Swamp Sponge Pack. It's 3 Nike Dunks in mismatched colorways. We have Sequoia, Photo Blue, and Psychic Purple. I'll pull them up for you guys right now. As you guys can tell from these images, they're quite the sight. They're definitely up there in terms of being ugly shoes, which, if you guys saw last week's episode when I was talking about the Manta Crocs Pollux that I have, I love having an ugly pair of shoes. It's just fun to come up with creative and wild looking outfits that work with these, because a lot of people when they have like an ugly shoe, they try to do something that it's kind of like matching with the shoe. But the thing is, when it's a mismatched pair of shoes like you're seeing, the outfit doesn't have to make sense. So it ends up actually working really well in that regard. But I digress. They're going to be dropping for a price of $155. I don't know if we have an official release date yet, but they will be dropping on the CPFM site as well as the Nike Sneakers app, as well as other select retailers. These are right in line with other CPFM collabs. We previously had in terms of dunks, we had the Nike Dunk CPFM Swarovski Crystal Pack, which you had the silverish space gray colorway, and then there was a Friends and Family olive pair. Both go for thousands of dollars. And then you have the Flea 1 Overgrown, and there was like an unreleased Flea 1, which was in like a trail outdoorsy kind of colorway. And then you had the Flea 2, which was very similar to that of like the Balenciaga like chunky shoes that were really popular like a few years ago. And I'll throw them up on screen for you guys if I haven't already. But they are very much in line with just the crazy out there pairs, or rather crazy out there colorways. So I'm excited that they're dropping these, and I'm hoping to see more CPFM collabs like this. I'm hoping that they drop some more colorways, because I could see this being it almost kind of gives off like a Nike Off-White Dunk vibe. So I definitely want to see them do some more of these in a bunch of different mismatched colorways. I think it would work really well. But moving on to our next topic, we have the return of, well, I wouldn't say the return of, but the release this weekend of the Nigel Sylvester Jordan 1s. So if you guys have followed sneakers for a while, Nigel Sylvester is a BMX rider who is signed to Nike and Jordan brand. And he's done a few collaborations in the past, most notably the Jordan 1 High, which was kind of, I think it was 2018 that they dropped. And it was honestly before like the neo vintage vibe came in, around like the late 2010s and then like early 2020. And it had this kind of vintage worn vibe from factory. That was the style of the shoe. And then we saw the Jordan 4 RMs and the Nigel Sylvester colorways. There was two there that dropped. There was one was a green colorway, and the other pair was this cement gray. And then we saw recently this year the brick by brick Nigel 4s that dropped with the Bike Air on the back. And the brick by bricks are definitely up there right now for many in regards to being the quote unquote sneaker of the year. I think a lot of people are saying that because obviously it's new. It's we haven't seen Nike change up the Nike Air logo and put that on a shoe, and it's an original colorway for the Jordan 4. I mean, we obviously, the undefeated 4 probably is sneaker of the year for anybody that's in and out of sneakers. Like, that's what they're considering the sneaker of the year. But it's also a retro, so I'm not sure if you can really dub it sneaker of the year. I think being an original colorway and something that's new and has the hype and exclusivity and the price tag that we're seeing, I think the brick by bricks are definitely up there. I know a few years ago we had the SB Jordan 4s, so for a lot of people as being sneaker of the year. So we could probably see this being up there, or at least within the top 3 or top 5 for this year. But moving back to the Jordan 1 Low that we're seeing drop this weekend, we're seeing it's called the Better With Time colorway, and I'll pull this up for you guys on the Nike site. This will be retailing for a price of $165 and is pretty solid, I'd say, for a Nigel Sylvester collab. I mean, the brick by bricks, I think, were either $230 or $250 retail price wise. So, and I think the Jordan 1 highs back when they dropped were probably around 160 or 165. So, pretty much in line with what we should expect. They, very similarly to the 1 highs, give off a neo vintage vibe. They have, they look worn like they were used for BMX riding, which is pretty cool. You have the Bike Air hit on the tongue, as you guys are seeing from these photos. Comes in, has a cream laces, the cream tongue, cream, midsole, vintage midsole, and then it looks like on the swoosh there is almost like a stenciling around the swoosh, which is actually 3M. So that was pretty cool to see. And then it also actually comes with a custom box as well that has the Bike Air logo on it. So very cool to see them. Rather cool to see Jordan and Nike continuing on with the special boxes per each release that's been coming out this year, because I know that's been a big hit for a lot of people, and definitely just a cool collectible aspect for anybody that likes the special details for sneakers. So I think resale price wise, these aren't doing too bad. I'm going to pull them up for you guys on the screen after editing. But these are dropping. I've been seeing a lot of raffles, both on like Ama Manier, Undefeated, and did a raffle as well. I mean, all the major retailers. I mean, these are going to be out there. If you are trying to get yourself a pair, there's a ton of different raffles and a ton of different sites that are going to be dropping these. So they should be fairly accessible. I'm sure that we will see some pretty good resale prices, not in terms of high resale value, but rather in terms of affordability for those that want to get their hands on a pair of these. I'm kind of iffy on these. I'm not sure how I feel. Maybe if I get a pair and get them in hand, I'll like them more. Not 100% certain yet, though, but I think if you want a solid collaboration and a Nigel Sylvester collaboration, I think there's definitely the shoe to go with right now, aside from the brick by brick Jordan 4s. Okay, so let's move on to the two big topics we have. Number one, we have the return of Yeezy.com and Yeezy Season 10. If you guys have been following Kanye, or I guess EA as he goes by now, he back earlier this year dropped a questionable T-shirt, we'll say at the least, on his Shopify page, which Shopify ended up taking down his shop because of. And so for a while, Yeezy.com and Kanye's way of selling his clothing brand were completely shut down. The website Yeezy.com looks to be back up and running, and I'll pull it up for you guys right now. And as you guys can see, there are a ton of pieces for Yeezy Season 10 that have dropped on this site. Each item is listed for a price of $20. And most notably, we're seeing Kanye drop the Yeezy slide again. Now, a lot of people didn't think that Kanye would be able to drop the Yeezy slide again. And I didn't think that either, but I believe it was Sneaker Legal had posted about this, and I think a few other sites and other brands and magazines and so forth had posted that Kanye actually owns the patent and trademark for the Yeezy slide. So when he released it through Adidas, they did the Adidas branding on it, but it wasn't an in-house Adidas model. He actually owned the design for that. So that was an original from him, from what it seems like. So he is able to re-release them this time without any of the Adidas branding and at a incredibly affordable price point of $20. So I am certain that we will see resale prices on Yeezy slides drop significantly, specifically in any colorways that were black or onyx. Those will definitely drop in price for sure. And I'm hoping he drops more colorways of them. I'm hoping he drops, just flood the market with all the colorways that like Adidas was dropping, and just bring the prices down, make them more affordable for everybody. Because they retailed at Adidas for $70, and then like resale prices were in like the hundreds. In some cases for certain colorways, and I thought that was dumb. I mean, it's a foam piece of footwear. There's no reason for it to be that high of a price. A pair of slides, like, it should be affordable. I ended up copping 2 pairs of slides as well as 2 pairs of the sunglasses. So the sunglasses were originally supposed to release with as part of the Yeezy Gap collaboration. Again, those were an in-house design from Yeezy, this Yeezy brand. So Kanye is able to drop them, and this, from what we're seeing online, they are coming in this black colorway. I think originally, from the ones that were teased, they were more of like a silver smoke gray mirror. So interesting that they end up going with the black colorway. We should see these, from at least what the site's telling me, shipment between 6 to like 10 or 6 to 13 weeks or something along those lines. I think it's more of like a pre-order is what it sounds like, which I think he's been doing for a lot of his merch off the Shopify site, which honestly, it makes sense, because the amount of volume of people that are buying stuff off this for $20 a piece, it just makes sense. So I should see these hopefully in the next couple months or so. But I have seen some people that have complained about previous orders not coming through. or rather not being delivered yet, and that was before the site got shut down months ago. So unsure what's going on there, but fingers crossed that I'm able to get these and I'm not out, because like over $100 or so after like shipping and taxes with everything. But I will definitely be rocking these Yeezy slides once I get them in, because I have one pair, but that's in like the cream colorway. So I need something that's more, wearable in that regard. And honestly, for the sunglasses, I just wanted them because they're crazy looking sunglasses. I'm curious to see what those are like. But other than that, our big topic that we're going to talk about is going to be the UFC and Paramount deal that just went through last weekend. Guys, I know I'm interrupting again, but I just wanted to let you all know that For the Culture is officially returning to Trumbull, Connecticut on Saturday, September 20th. If you would like to buy, sell, or trade your sneakers, clothing, collectibles, or whatever else you have with 100 plus vendors and 500 plus people, be sure to stop by For the Culture at InSport Centers in Trumbull, Connecticut on Saturday, September 20th from 12 to 5 p.m. To purchase early tickets and tables, you can go to fortheculturect.com/September 20th. That's fortheculturect.com/September 20th. Now let's get back to the podcast. So I'm going to pull it up for you guys right now. This was posted on the official UFC website on August 11th, 2025. Paramount and TKO Group Holdings, which is the UFC parent company, have announced a 7-year media rights agreement in which Paramount will become the exclusive home of all UFC events in the United States. Starting in 2026, Paramount will exclusively distribute UFC's full slate of 13 marquee numbered events and 30 fight nights via its direct-to-consumer streaming platform, Paramount Plus, with select numbered events to be simulcast on CBS, Paramount's leading broadcast network. As part of the agreement, UFC and Paramount will move away from the UFC's existing pay-per-view model in favor of making these premium events available at no additional cost to the expansive US subscriber base of Paramount Plus. This shift in distribution strategy will unlock greater accessibility and discoverability for sports fans and provide an important catalyst for driving engagement and further subscriber growth for Paramount Plus. Paramount intends to explore UFC rights outside of the US as they become available in the future. This is a crazy change to sports, specifically with combat sports, and obviously especially with UFC, because when it came to combat sports, it was always this pay-per-view model, right? And UFC was previously with ESPN Plus, where you paid whatever it was for like a Disney Plus, Hulu, ESPN bundle. It was ranged from like a few dollars to like $15 a month or so, and you paid for this subscription and it gave you access to UFC fight nights, but it didn't give you access to any of the main numbered fights. So you were still having to pay an additional $80, $90, whatever it was, for the fights, which, if you're seeing 13 numbered fights in a year at, almost $100 a piece, that's almost $1,300 that you're paying on top of the, couple hundred that you're probably paying in subscription fees for ESPN Plus bundle. It just didn't make any sense. And you combine that with the ability for people to illegally stream sports events now much easier. It didn't make any sense for UFC. I mean, they were losing money on this pay-per-view model, but now with them doing a subscriber-based system and strictly going based on that, I think you're going to see a much greater base, obviously flocking to Paramount Plus, but a lot of people being willing to pay that subscription fee now, knowing that they are getting a good value for money in terms of being able to view the fights. But this will actually shift, I think, a lot of sports, not just UFC, but or rather not just MMA and combat sports, but you'll see this also probably shift how a lot of other professional sports like the NBA, like the NFL, like the NHL, how they move about in terms of being able to view their games, because it doesn't make sense to go based on like a pay-per-view model. I think like like with the NFL, they had their deals. I think it was with Apple TV, they did one. I think Netflix might have been another, where they were doing exclusive games on those platforms on different days. And that pissed off a lot of different people because they don't want to be paying all these different subscriptions. They want to be able to just find it in one location. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see an interesting deal when it either comes with the NFL or the NBA or something, one of the major sports organizations. I wouldn't be surprised if we see some sort of exclusive agreements like that happen on other streaming platforms like your Netflix, like your Apple TV, Amazon, something along those lines. I wouldn't be surprised if we see that. This deal with the UFC, from what I have read, I believe it puts it at $1.1 billion per year. So after 7 years, it's a $7.7 billion deal. Insane for the UFC. And I bet that we're going to see some crazy expansion within the UFC brand and what they're doing with that, especially with this streaming deal, just in terms of, obviously accessibility to be able to view the fights. I'm sure we're going to see some big things happen. I'm very excited. They have already confirmed that the UFC America 250 for the White House card, that will be streamed on CBS as well. So you won't even have to pay the subscription fee to be able to see that, as long as you have, your basic cable, which is great. And that's just one of the very few, big things that we're going to see happen. So I'm very excited to see what happens in the near future. But other than that, guys, that is going to do it for our main topics, as well as the episode. I appreciate you all for tapping in as per usual. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are on the topics that we went over today in the comment section below, or you could hit me up on Instagram at Jean-Luc Paul Daigle, which is my personal Instagram, or the JPD podcast, which is obviously the official Instagram of the podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure that you like the episode, as well as subscribe to the channel if you're watching on YouTube. And if you are watching or listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, do me a huge favor and follow the podcast, as well as give it a rating, as it does help push the podcast up within the charts. You guys already know that we're going to have more to discuss next week. And if you guys do want to stay up to date on all my episodes, if you're watching on YouTube, be sure to hit the notification bell. Other than that, be sure to check out my videos on my other channel, my main channel at Jean-Luc Paul Daigle. I have a few new videos that I mentioned last week that I'm kind of putting together. So that should, those should be coming out within the next week or two. We should have some more stuff for you guys. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out, as well as hit the notification bell for that channel as well. With that being said, guys, this was the JPD podcast. Thank you for coming for the culture, and I'll catch you guys in the next conversation.
It's time to honor MLK and Malik Shabazz. Paradox teaches class while we speak to reach the mass. Yeah, shame on those who think we need to delete the past. We need to educate so our kids forge a better path. If the future is a glass, mine is half full. I had to leave the internet because I can't stand bull. And there's no need for profanity when conversing candidly. Facts are just that. Follow the cure for insanity.